As Dufferin County makes preparations for a new waste management system, many aspects of waste management must be considered. Not only is the location and type of waste management site important, but also the concept of recycling, reducing, and reusing must be addressed in any modern waste management facility. This video will investigate the waste management facility in Caledon, which services 32,000 residents, approximately the same number of residents as the proposed Dufferin site.
Well, the region has been operating the site for approximately 15 years that I know of now. Prior to that, I'm not quite sure when it was first opened. The last council meeting that I attended, they were mentioning somewhere in the range of 30 years or so. Now the region appeal is operating the site. Prior to that, I don't know, the town of Caledon was operating, was it there?
The site used to belong to the township of Caledon. And I guess it was started in the early 60s. The township of Caledon used to look after it. And then when it became the town of Caledon, the regional government took over all landfilling. And they used to operate it with one man in a small dozer. And he really didn't do a heck of a lot other than keep cover on it. And it's grown to this size now.
Well, what's the land area of this site?
The land area is 37 acres, and 32 of them are actual landfill.
And when you're constructing the landfill site, how deep do they go into the ground, below the natural grade of the land, and how high are they building it up?
Well, we're going to propose elevations. Right now, if you were to drive back there, we still have to excavate approximately 12 feet, which would be the proposed elevation that we started off with. And by the time we're totally completed, I guess you would have somewhere in the vicinity of 60 feet of garbage.
That was a funny thing when they were doing this site here, before Paul was even here, they done some testing up on top of the hill on compaction. And they found that with the old machines, the compaction was very low. And they brought in a compactor, and they went and they stripped the top off the site again and started compacting, and they picked up 4 feet of usable space again.
Since March, we've been averaging somewhere between 75 and 85 tons of waste a day. That's a commercial waste. On top of that, you have to add somewhere between 10 and 15 tons of residential waste that has been brought in. All vehicles have to stop at the scale house to begin with. The truck stops before driving on the scale deck. The designated person inside, the operator of the scale house, weighs the truck and then waves them on. Okay, the operator in the scale house has got access to an indicator and a memory machine and also a printer. So when the truck is on the scale, he punches in the identification number and he punches in out of there, and the machine records what the weight of the truck was. The truck then from then goes to the back, dumps his load, comes back around. Again, he has to stop before driving on the deck. And the scale house operator will punch in his identification number, and he'll just punch it, print, and he'll get a ticket with the amount, the care, the net, and the truck driver has to sign it. That's the end of it. The big companies that we have, like the people like BFI or major companies, Laidlaw, they have a charge account. So they just sign for the ticket, and then at the end of the month they get billed. The small construction company, there might be a shinglers or whatever the case might be, they do pay cash. There is a certain amount of cash that does come in. But if we prefer if it's arranged to a charge.
If I was a private resident coming into this site and I had a quantity of garbage, how much would it cost me personally to get rid of it, or is there a charge?
No, if you're a resident of the region of Pio, nothing. It won't cost you a penny. Providing you're coming in with a vehicle that is less than 3/4 of a ton. That's one of our stipulations. If you enter the site with a vehicle that is 3/4 of a ton and over, you'll be charged $95 a ton. As of July 1st, you will be charged $125 a ton.
But they do a nice job. Like they pick garbage here all the time, and it's well kept. It's a clean site. Paul runs a good ship here.
You're always coming off a slope, right? So I like to build two berms, one on each side of it, and then you work in between. So it doesn't matter whichever side you come on. Three sides are totally screened. So you only have to come in from one end in order to see it. And usually that's the end that I keep it, where nobody ever drives there. Well, the population around the site is not really that great. I would say there might be in the vicinity of 10 families living within the site. As far as and the noise of the actual operation of the site, nobody has ever come to me and complained about it. They have complained about the bird program, because it does create an explosion, and it does, it's quite noticeable from far away. There is a little bit of a complaint when we have high winds and we have paper blowing all over the place. We do have a litter fence surrounding the whole site, and we do retain most of it. But unfortunately, at times, we have to go and pick it all the way around the fields and second line or whatever.
Fence to go along and just pull the ropes, eh? It'll all fall down, and then they can pick the paper off it and put it back up again. That's the reason it's a flexible type fence.
It is. You can't really have a rigid type, not only because of that, like Gary said, that you can lower it down and it makes it easy to pick the paper, right? Also, when you have big windstorms, you gotta have some flexibility in that fence, so she'll just blow. She'll blow down.
Yeah.
With all the paper on it.
Oh, yeah. It becomes like a solid wall. We have specified people that they come once a month, that they come on site, and we have test wells placed all around the site and in the site. And they come in and they check the water. They especially check for the leachate. We like to monitor the leachate to see where it goes, how much accumulation, what it creates. And so far, because maybe of the sandy soil that we have here, we didn't have a problem with it. It is monitored on a regular basis. At the present time, we have 7 employees at the site. We have 2 machine operators, 1 tractor controller, 1 truck driver laborer, and we have a person that operates the scale house, and another person that is looking after the recycling. You definitely have to have a compactor. That improves the lifespan of the site quite, I would say about approximately 25%. And you have to have, I would suggest a front-end loader, because it's more of a versatile machine. You can load trucks, you can push, and you can almost do as much as you do with a dose, especially if you buy one with a clam bucket.
You talked about recycling facilities. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about the different materials that are recycled, how people would bring them into the landfill site to have them recycled, and what ultimately happens with the material that's collected.
Well, we have, right now we're recycling wood, metal, cardboard, drywall, paper, tires, and used oil. This is what we're recycling at the present time. We're looking into recycling plastic, but there's so many kinds of it that it's a little bit of a problem with it. The tires, for instance, we had the tires and we ground them all up in small, I guess maybe 2 by 2 square inches, and we tried to make roads out of it instead of buying gravel. The paper obviously gets recycled and then it's going to be used as paper. The wood gets all ground up. It gets what you call wood chips, and we use it around plantations, trees, shrubs, boulevards, just to keep the weeds from growing. We do have a bin, and the bin has been manufactured especially for the collection of the glass by Sanderson Knowledge, as a matter of fact, and it has to be separated. The recyclers will not accept it if it's not separated. They'll consider it contaminated and they reject it to the load. It's quite interesting actually now. I guess they must have a surplus of glass as it stands right now. And what they're trying to do, they're grinding it down very, very fine. And there again, we've been asked to use it to build roads instead of buying gravel. The box is basically divided in 2, and it's got two access doors to it. And one of them is for the white and one of them is for the rest of the colors.
And would they accept window glass in there, or is that only for glass bottles and jars?
That's right, glass bottles and jars, no windows, no light bulbs, no ceramic. I don't know what else. There's a list of material that cannot be accepted. We do have 3 tanks of approximately 250 gallons each. They're all old fuel tanks from households that we have at the back. And people do bring in their used oil. This is again only for residents only. It's not for industrial commercial use. I would say that approximately we fill them up about 4 times a year. We have a contract with Can-Am that does come in and empty our tanks when we so desire, and they take it back to their facility and they recycle the oil. What you see right here now, it's a curb that we're going to install on the outside of the parking lot once it's properly graded. This is what is called superwood. It's a recyclable material, plastics, and they make curbs, benches, and we also have a picnic table on the outside. And every fall we get quite a bit of leaves brought in. Some of it by residential, some of them by the industrial people that they have a contract with the town of Caledon. They bring the leaves in, and we store them up at the top, close to the topsoil pile. What we do, we just make a berm out of it. And every so often, we monitor, by the way, we monitor for temperature and moisture on a weekly basis. And every so often, when the temperature starts to drop, we turn them over. So we give them access to oxygen, and that way it brings the temperature back up. By the following fall, the leaves are composted to the point where they can be mixed with topsoil and be used for final cover. We also have what we call a salvaging area, and it consists of a fenced-in area where the residents can bring in whatever they choose that is no longer suitable to them, and they place it under, I guess it's like some kind of a plastic tarp that we have up there, and they place it underneath there, and the next resident that comes in, if it's to his liking, he can take it free of charge to dump it and to take it.
Going back to the salvage areas for just a minute, what sort of things do you have coming in? Fridges and stoves?
Anything you can think of. I don't even know where to begin to name them. Like you said, fridge, stoves, couches, lights, lanterns, golf clubs, books, clothing. I don't know. Anything you can think of comes in. Lawnmowers.
What happens to any materials that aren't picked up? How long are they allowed to sit in the salvage yard until the region or yourself says it's been in there long enough, nobody wants it, and does it get landfilled then, or is it sent for recycling, or what happens to it?
Well, it depends on the quality of the material, obviously. If it's metal, we dispose of it into the metal bin. If it's wood, into the wood bin. And if it's just waste, then we just landfill it. And we do keep them within the salvaging area 10 days maximum. Then we have to dispose of it, otherwise, you know, you need an enormous space to keep all the stuff.
Of the material coming into the salvage area, in your opinion, how much of it would be taken for reuse?
75%. The recyclable stuff that comes in is strictly set up for the residents. It's not for the industrial people, commercial or industrial for that matter. And it can be brought in just about in any method that you can think of: cars, trucks, trailers, pickups, whatever. There is no charge for it, providing again that it's always in residential. But so far as contamination, we never had any problems as of yet. And we do have a person employed at all times there, which looks after everybody that comes in, directs in the proper bin to dispose of the proper materials. He keeps records. He keeps records of everything that goes in and everything that comes out. A couple of times, like sometimes during vacations or something like that, you have to have the men doing other jobs, even for short periods of a time, like maybe doing the traffic and controlling it. And by the time they got back there, yes, there was wood in the metal bin and metal in the wood bin and cardboard that, with plastic lining, which is not acceptable. Yes, you definitely have to have a person.
Paul, does everybody in the town of Caledon get curbside collection?
Yes, they do now. It's about a year and a half now that all residents of the town of Caledon, they have curbside.
The area is so large, and the trucks, in order to do their pickups, when they work this side of the Airport Road. They dump it here into the roll-offs, and then they take it over to the recycling building that's over at Bolton, where it is finalized and shipped out from there. This is more just like a satellite transfer yard.
In Dufferin County, we're right now in the process of doing a waste management master plan, and part of that is citing a landfill site and associated 3Rs programs. If you were getting into this process and starting fresh, would there be any recommendations you'd have for a group such as ourselves who are just starting out?
Well, I definitely would recommend the maintenance building. That's a must. We operated without one, and it wasn't very pleasant. It was very hard. It was very hard on the equipment. It was very hard on the men and everybody. That's one of the first things that I definitely would have. Well, you cannot start a new landfill site without a compactor because it's not practical. Definitely you have to have a compactor. You have to have another piece of equipment, whether it's a dozer or a front end loader. Naturally, you have to have employees. But what I suggest that you guys do the most is program it right. Have everything set up before you open up. Have all your rules and regulations. It's hard to deal with the public. They'll give you a hard time. They don't like to be told. They like to be asked. So you make sure that you have all your rules and regulations in proper direction and have counsel behind you. It helps a lot.